Hey guys, I wanted to do another
evil
thrift store makeover today, but it's snowing outside.
I know they're out there.
Which is great and all, but it means I can't go to the thrift store. No worries though. I have a lot of junk laying around that could use some customizing. So I dug this thing out of the attic. It's just like a wooden box, crate, basket, storage thing. You get the idea. It's pretty plain, very dull. There's not much going on at all, but that just means there's a lot of prime real estate begging to be painted.
Please paint me, please paint me.
Okay, so it seemed like a good choice. I started off by wiping off all the dust mites and dead skin cells. Won't be needing their services anymore.
Ew.
This crate is a little big, so I have to film it front on instead of overhead, which I normally do, making it a bit of a challenge, but I'm doing my best. And now that all the dirty work's done, I'm finally ready to paint.
God, yeah.
Just so you know, usually you're supposed to drown this in tons of gesso. I don't have gesso, and I couldn't really go get any right now, so there's no white base coat, which I would normally do. No need to panic though, I'll just do a million layers of paint. It's fine. So first I'm going to paint this whole crate one color and then add details to the top. Here's me trying out a peachy color just to see if I like it. Yep, good. That's the one. It looks like it's definitely gonna take a couple coats, just as I expected. So then I decided to just paint layer after layer after layer of peach onto this wood crate. I'm trying to cover up the wood grain as best as I can with the paint. I don't really want any of that ghosting through. It took me a couple centuries to paint this whole thing peach, but you won't realize that in this 10-minute video. Normally for my thrift store makeovers, I sculpt something either with Sculpey or epoxy and build off whatever item I have. Today though, I just wanted to sit down and draw and paint.
Just a chill day.
There's still gonna be a couple murders taking place, just not as violent as usual. I chose this crate because once it's painted, it can kind of be like for decor, but also it can be used as storage, killing two birds with one stone. And now that I've painted the outside, I'm going to turn my attention to the insides. I didn't have enough white paint for a base coat, but I have enough for painting just the insides, so that's what I'm doing, just working with what I have. I went in with some tape around the crate just so I could also paint the top edge. Tried making sure I didn't miss any spots, even went inside the little handles with a small brush. Okay. Okay. After peeling the tape off, I went back and did some touch-ups. Oh, and of course, wouldn't want to forget the butt. So then I painted the bottom of the crate just the same peach color as the sides. I chose this very light color scheme because my plan for this is to paint Slurp on top, and I really wanted him to stand out while still sticking to Slurp's main color palette. I thought about painting the base color of the crate a light pink and have a blue Slurp on top, but that's too close to some of my other characters, and I figured Slurp needs his own time to shine. A lot of you guys really seem to like Slurp, even though I don't really talk about him too much. So many people always seem to draw him even after all this time, which is really cool to see. I've gotten so many drawings of him over time that I couldn't really fit them all into the video. Slurp's the very first clay monster I made on the channel. He definitely holds a very special place in my heart, grumpiness and all. I started off by planning things out with a little doodle. I then wanted to resketch out everything on the box before going in with paint, just in case I wanted to change anything or alter any dimensions. So I drew Slurp with his anglerfish antenna thing and a little fishbowl. I kept having to redraw the fishbowl because I couldn't get the size right. It was a bit of a struggle. I didn't want the fishbowl to end up too big or too small. Wanted it to be perfect. Not that it's anywhere near perfect, but yeah. Slurp's like a little sea monster.
Slurp, the diver of
Doom.
When I originally made him, he was holding a little fish. His main diet consists of fish, so I wanted to draw his lunchtime routine. I'd just like to put a disclaimer out there for all the sparkle butts. These are not real fish.
Please help me.
They're goldfish crackers. Clearly. They might look somewhat realistic in certain lighting, but they're not. Slurp would never dare eat a real fish.
Unless you would.
This whole sketching process was a bit awkward because I'm doing it at a weird angle because of the camera and because of how big the box is. It's harder to draw and film with something this bulky, something I hadn't taken into account before starting. So then I pulled out my
Oscar pears.
which I'm sure you saw coming. Posca pens always do an amazing job, hence why I love them so much. And for whatever reason, the Posca pens really seem to pop on this wood crate. I really like how the color is turning out. It almost looks like it's glowing. Originally, Slurp was a pretty ugly blue, painted with some very cheap paint. I'm much happier with how the Posca pens are looking on him. Not sure if that's because of the color contrast or because of the material of the crate, but something was definitely working. Because it's wood, I'm trying to be careful not to press down on the Poscas too hard because that would rip the nib of the Posca markers. I love my Poscas too much. Wouldn't want to destroy them. In my original sculpt, I had made a pink and green fish for Slurp, so to stick with that whole theme, I made one of the fish green and one of the fish pink. The color choices for the fish really didn't matter. I just thought it would be cool to incorporate the original colors. But yeah, Slurp's not picky about his fish. He'll eat any kind, raw, cooked, from the wild, or pets in a fish bowl. Nothing's really safe. If you're new here and you don't want to end up as Slurp's lunch, you should consider selling your soul to me by subscribing to my channel. It's the only way I can guarantee your safety. I post new videos
Every Friday.
Anyways, I then went in and added some highlights and some shading to make it look a little more dimensional and a little less flat. After that, I went around and outlined everything and touched everything up, made everything nice and tidy. When painting with Poscas, you have to take little breaks between layers just to let it dry, or else the paint just mixes together and it's annoying. There's some water drops here, there, everywhere. I even added some little puddles under Slurp's feet as a fun little addition. I also thought about adding bubbles, but ultimately decided not to. I kinda like the simplicity of it as it is. Didn't want to make things too busy. I couldn't leave good enough alone, so I added in some lines at the bottom, kinda like for a surface, but then I changed my mind. It doesn't really need it, so I painted back over those. So then I turned the crate around. Well, that's a whole lot of wasted space. I figured I should paint something on the back. Didn't want to leave it as is. It was feeling a little incomplete. At first I didn't know what to paint. I just knew I wanted it to be cohesive and flow together. Didn't want to just stick something random on there. I decided to still keep with the same theme of Slurp eating fish. This time though, I drew a dead fish on a plate.
Very appetizing.
I wanted to try and draw everything as evenly as possible, but Slurp's arms are a little off. One's a little bigger than the other, but it's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I think it looks decent. I was just kinda eyeballing things. There's very little precision involved. By the way, side note, there's always someone in the comments telling me I'm not evil or that my drawings aren't evil. I just wanted to clarify for the naysayers that Slurp is a monster. He may be creepy cute, but that doesn't mean he's not bad to the bone. He's about as
Evil.
as they come. So anyways, there's a white plate with white fish bones. This requires quite a few layers. Some of the Posca markers you really have to layer up to make sure it's not too transparent. This was especially true for the wood because the wood just soaks up the paint and lighter colors take a lot more paint to show up. So I really needed to work on and build up that white paint. It's really annoying, but it is what it is. The fish is looking kinda bony because Slurp already devoured it and there's some green fish guts everywhere. I'm sure fish guts aren't usually green. I don't know though. I'm no fish gut expert. I just made it green because he's supposed to be eating the green fish from the other side. So you see, it comes full circle. At some point I added some blush on the dead fish, I guess. I don't remember doing that. I don't even know why a dead fish would be blushing. But yeah, that's there now, and it's there to stay. Slurp's holding some utensils. The fork's fine, but I accidentally made the knife a bit too small at first, so I had to go back and fix that. That was bothering me. To seal everything in, I went over it with a nice layer of some normal matte Mod Podge. I didn't have glossy Mod Podge, so I settled for matte. Either one's fine, I think. But wait. There's more. I'm gonna add a few more things to this. So when you normally push or pull on a crate, it's loud, noisy, tough to maneuver. In order to conserve as much energy as possible, I decided to add some wheels to this crate. Gosh, I'm starting to sound like an infomercial. I just really wanted to add wheels. I felt it adds something to it. These are from Home Depot. They have a ton of different options. I'm sure you could just pull some wheels off an old desk chair. I just didn't have one of those on hand, so I'll be using these wheels from Home Depot instead. Side note, if you were to slide this crate into like a shelf, this side with the handle would actually be the front. But since I'm not storing it on a shelf or anything like that, I actually made this side the front. Sorry if that bothers you. And just like that, I've done it again. It's not perfect by any means, but I think it ended up looking pretty cool, and it's definitely something I'll be using for storing my stuff.
Oh my gosh, Slurp is in your fish tank right now. If you want to save Goldie, click on the top right or bottom left. Hurry!
Oh my god, there's water everywhere! There's water everywhere! Help!
Ow!